So we are moving now into our last lab, which is a very key principle, which is the belief in God. Kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, the first principle. We left it to the end because we thought it was the most important and we wanted to close with it. And already we see some comments and questions in the Jamboard just now. You know, what is this principle saying to people who are atheists, who are Malaysian but atheists, or people who have no established religion yet? What does it say to our orang asli who don't believe in a formal religion? So I'm going to hand this over to Prof Tajuddin to take us off, and then it will go, each of our speakers will speak for about 3 minutes, and then we will have some open conversation. Okay, so Prof Tajuddin, would you like to lead?
Yes, thank you very much. Again, failure of education. We senang buat perkataan or statement like kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, but nobody explains what that means. Now, I have here a mug. This is from philosophy from Lao Tzu, from the Tao Te Ching. He said, however beautiful the mug is, however you decorate, it's outside. But the most important part of the mug is the emptiness inside, the empty thing inside here. So if the mug is cracked, then this is no longer useful. So if you look at another mug, this is another mug, and you can see there's a difference. This is in the shape of the Incredible Hulk. This is another mug that has another thing. So if you imagine a religion, these are two different religions. What we are emphasizing, again, back to us, as Prof Ong says, back to us, we are teaching our adherents to honor this outside, this decoration. But when we look, we forgot to teach that there is this emptiness inside, which in other religion also has the emptiness inside. So this emptiness is the one that we share. We share this. These are two different marks with two different religions, with two different rituals. So the idea of spirituality and religion are two different things. Religion is its form, and spirituality is the thing or the emptiness that we share together. So if we understand that, then we will be able to respect and be part of our religion without we having to say that we are better than others, because everyone, every single mug, whether it is a orang asli mug, whether it is a Kadazan Dusun mug, or whether it is a Christian mug, or is an Islamic Muslim mug, it all has this emptiness which is similar to all. Now, for some reason, the educators of the country did not teach that simple principle. Now, of course, some people say, "Oh, this is not very good. You are saying that religion is better than others, or that sort of thing." I'm not saying that. You are all individuals, different marks, but we need to examine that this emptiness, spirituality, and includes also the idea of what people call atheists. For some reason, I actually now respect these people who do not believe in an identity God, rather than those who actually believe in an identity God, because they put God in a box. Okay, once you Catholicism, once you name something, then you think you know, and then you start negating the others. When in fact, the box that you created or the name that you created is only a very small thing. It's a very small understanding of something. But once you name it and say it is Allah or it is this and that, then you say, well, this one is different than others. So I expect that, of course, some people say this is too complicated for our children to understand. But university, what do we teach? This is again the failure of education. And if you do not understand these fundamental principles of spirituality, religion, history of religion, anthropology of religion, then you begin to say that you are better than others. So kepercayaan kepada Tuhan is absolutely meaningless without the basis and foundation of this idea of spirituality and the idea of a historical or identifiable religion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Prof. So who would like to take on after him? Hard act to follow, Prof Tajuddin. So who wants to go next? I leave it open. Yes, Arun.
Okay, see, there's a lot of debate on this one. Shall we separate the secular education from the religious education? Yesterday, last night we had a webinar. Okay, it's called Suara Gerak Independent. In that one, so we were debating about vernacular school, where we think the vernacular school, it is moving towards be a national school because there's more non-Chinese in vernacular schools than in the national schools with the Chinese students, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
We were saying the the vernacular schools are acting more like a national schools, where the national schools are becoming as a religious schools. So now the kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, when we impose on everybody, okay, when government take that the first thing, kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, if it's imposing, okay, on others. Example, our constitution says the government, the constitution say we cannot, the freedom of religion, and we cannot regulate any other religion than of Islam. Only Islam can be regulated, and it comes under the purview of the state. And all other religions are free to be practiced, to be managed, and to be propagated. Okay, so that is what it is. So now what happened when we put so much of emphasis on religion, the religion becoming the factor that separates us. And I totally agree with Prof. It's not we are teaching, we are forcing the religion as per religion say. We are not forcing on spirituality. Spirituality is so much more important than being a religious or being a pious. So without spirituality, we will not have unity. But when we have so many religious person, even Zakir Naik call himself as a religious person, all right? So when this kind of characters comes up, and they will use the religion to break the fabric of Malaysia, and that exactly happened since 1980, about 40 years. And to a certain extent, I'm sure Prof also can watch on this because he was part of middle of such a movement then. So my thing is, the contemporary Malaysia have to move from a religious and religion teaching towards spirituality teaching. Must pay a lot more attention to the thoughts rather than to a set of rules. And there's a lot of studies shows a lot of the young people, growing number of young people cannot associate themselves with any other religion, but they are very spiritual. And atheists, for one, atheists is one group that they do not believe in God, but when it comes to morality, behavior, humanity, friendliness towards ecosystem and planet, all the stuff, they actually rate really high. So I think kepercayaan kepada Tuhan, it is a really good thing. I think all of us must have some sort of belief. Whether atheism also is a form of belief. Okay, but all this belief must be defined in terms of spirituality, not in the sense of some organized religion. I think religion being one of the reason that we are so split and we are so broken now. This movement have started since the 80s, and right now we are at the juncture. And Zakir Naik, exactly the product, the separation that have Malaysian religious movement have created.
Thank you, Arun. Now I'm conscious that Pastor Hermen has a 5 o'clock appointment, so I'm going to ask him to speak now. Yes, Hermen?
Okay, I'm going to respond to that from a different angle. I think this is the most problematic tenant in the Rukun Negara. I do not know why it has been put in all our reading of history. Whenever somebody inserts a tenant either in constitution or as a national principle, it raises a lot of discussion. Believe in God. Who's God? And if you look at the history of religions, most religions are fighting about the concept of God till this day. Within their own religious belief system, they have schools of thought, or between religions. And therefore, there is a lucrative business when you write about books like The Battle of the Gods, or conflict, or terrorism, and a host of other things. Most of the conflicts, besides being political projects, are sustained by religious, apocalyptic, or some form of divergent understanding of the religion. Now, today we are faced with a pandemic. Who are we listening to when we are following the SOP? So I put it in another way. When you go to an aeroplane and you sit in the plane before it's taking off, are you asking yourself whether it is a Muslim pilot, is a Buddhist pilot, is a Christian pilot, it's a Hindu pilot? In fact, when you pray, you're only praying that the pilot knows his job and that he knows science enough, is educated enough to be able to apply all the principles of his learning to fly safely. And I think that is what should be governing governance. When we talk about governance, it is not something otherworldly. Governance are things that affect human life and communities, and you are able to point out, just as the discussion we are having about injustice, about disadvantaged groups, about prejudice, about putting brakes, about closing the space of democracy. All these things you don't need to bring in a religious angle. In fact, whenever the religious angle comes, then you complicate the discussion. So I think basically when we are talking about constitution, we are talking about human lives in community, individual rights, everybody equal before the law, and the ability to form consciousness so that we are having a love for our motherland or fatherland. And if religion plays any role, then it should be bringing the highest ideals of your religion to bear in your conviction and relationship to others. So that if you talk about people showing love and care for others, which is what Malaysian life is in this pandemic, people are able to help. A religious person, it should not only be that, it should be also encouraging the religious institutions to give all the money that they are hoarding to the poor and the needy. So the religious people must be doing double of what is expected. But most of the time, Religious people are the ones who are pontificating and teaching everybody what is right and wrong and everything. And in most instances, they hold the power, they enjoy the privilege, and they also benefit from crisis. Think about these things. I think it is so crucial that when we refer to this idea about the belief in God, it should be the most troubling because it goes right to the deepest cause. So our professor had just spoken about the emptiness in the Christian concept of following God. We speak about emptying ourselves. And so those who recite the Holy Scriptures must first empty themselves. If not, they have no right to talk. And once you go down that line, then you find all these religious people talking less. And so I'll stop now because that could also be for me.
Thank you, Reverend Hermen. And Prof Ong?
Yeah, thank you very much. Since we have 4 minutes, I would like to share King Asoka. So this Emperor Asoka, 3rd century BC, he was a very violent man. To know about the Buddha. So he left behind a lot of legacies after he embraced the Dharma. And one of his rock edicts, which still stand in India today, he wrote this. Allow me to read this. One should not honor only one's religion and condemn the religion of others, but one should honor others' religions for this or that reason. In so doing, one actually helps one own religion to grow and render service of others too. But if one acts otherwise, other people's religion, one digs the grave of one's own religion because you bring disrespect to your own religion, does harm to other religions. One who glorifies one own religion and condemns other religions, in so doing, he or she injures his own religion more gravely. So concord is good. So when we talk about the container, the marks, we would like to look at the religion as a container. But if Prof Tajuddin talk about the emptiness inside, people will ask what's the meaning. So when we look about containers, no doubt they are different. One thing that we have to bear in mind or to reflect on, what is inside the container? So there are different contents. You can have tea, coffee, Milo, whatever. Yeah? So it doesn't matter the container looks 10 ringgit container or 100 ringgit gold container. Contents. And these contents are the one that we say will make you a better human being in the sense of being moral, in the sense of giving dignity to others, in the sense of having mutual respect. And about this concept of emptiness, when we talk about belief in God, when we talk about having, it could be problematic because we are labeling ourselves. Forget that in this labeling, we forget the individuals. Just like we look at the constellation, we are so impressed with constellation like Orion, yeah, or Leo, but we forget the fact that it is made up of individual stars, and each star is a beauty. So when we talk about religion, we forget that each religion has followers, and everyone has their own potential and dignity. This emptiness, for me, it is emptying what? It's empty idea, this concept of I. This is my religion. This is I, this is mine, this is mine, this is myself, this is ours, not yours. Concept of emptiness actually personalize. You don't and if we don't personalize, we are going beyond reality. So this is a belief in God is just a concept. People who are atheists, they can embrace this because they accept that there are people who believe in God. So there are atheists, like what Arun said. Atheists believe in something. The agnostics also believe in something. They might not believe in the God, the same Muslim God or Christian God, but they believe in something. So we people's beliefs. So that is basically it. It's just a concept. And in so doing, we allow marks, but more important is the contents inside. The contents, they say, I can put anything in this mark. And what do I make of it? Don't personalize this mark and say this is mine.
Thank you, Prof. I think that gives us all some deep thinking to do tonight before we put our heads to our pillows about what is the thing that we carry in our individual mug, and how do we hold on to it or let go, and how does that make us in terms of our relationship with other people. Yeah, because I think that is essentially ties up what we started with, that it is a relationship, that the Rukun Negara talks about relationship within the context of the more formal federal constitution, and then how we relate to others in our relationship across manners and kesopanan dan kesusilaan, and finally what drives that relationship. What is the source, the inspiration for the kinds of relationships that we have? And are these relationships something that is located on our external surfaces of who we are, the face we show to others, or our relationships something that enter our hearts and spirits and connect us in that space where we are similar yet different, one in humanity, sharing the spirit of humanity. So I am most appreciative for your sharing today. All of us have, I think, had a great time exploring new thought patterns, new ways to think about things, and also a challenge that has been, I think, initiated from the point we started. You know, who builds Malaysia? Who decides what Malaysia will be in the year 2030 and 2050 and 2060, when many of us may not be here? But who will do it, you know? And can we here now, sitting, think of how we can make a difference to the people who come after us? I've seen some quite sad comments on the chat about, you know, it's taken so long, 50 years to get here. But you know, every country in the world has had to go through those 50 years. And you will agree with me that the last 5 years, more things have happened than have happened in the 45 years before. So the pace of change has accelerated. And the last 6 months, it has accelerated again. So that now we have 32 people sitting in a Zoom room talking about the Rukun Negara when it would never have been done before last year, right? So the pace of change is upon us. We are the people that are being called to work with this change, whether we are 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 or 60 or 70 years old in this room. And we have a generations coming after us. So what is the legacy? What is the messages that we will bring to them, so that the move to become more human can go on, become more human in our space in Malaysia? Now, apart from that, I'm going to ask if anyone has a question for the panelists. You can unblock, because of time constraint, you can unmic yourself and ask a question. If you do not have a question, then I'm going to ask the panelists to say their one sentence farewell for the close of the session, and then we can stay on and chit chat after that. So this is my plan. So if there's a question, now's the time to ask the question. Mentimeter must go up on the chat, Pat, Nambia, and panelists, you can start talking about, start closing up. Okay, the Mentimeter is up. Go to your, click, you can use this on your phone also if you don't want to do it on your laptop. And you can go to type in 34, 24, 67, 4. It's there in the, okay? And write your feedback for the session. So panelists, you might want to start thinking about your closing sentence for the group. I'm sorry we are rushing you, but there is a time element here. We need to finish by 5, I think. We could go on, but Herman will have to leave us at 5 o'clock, I think, yeah? Okay, any questions? My question team, any questions you want to put in the chat for the, or are you sending it to me on WhatsApp? Zoom chat, any questions on the Zoom there? No questions. Okay, no questions on the Zoom chat. So we can ask for your closing statement, Herman. Would you like to give a closing statement? What's your message to Malaysians?
Well, it's work in progress as I began the conversation. And democracy is always a work of progress. There are different challenges, there are different factors, there are external pressures, global crisis, and all these things can affect the life of a nation, and politics plays into that. And politicians have a way to play upon people's fears, and all the good talk we may have, finally when it comes to bread and butter, we will vote accordingly. Or if people threaten that a minority group is going to be wiped out, then we'll vote differently. So I think these are all part of human history. So democracy is a work in progress, but as a result of the progress of history, there are so many thousands upon thousands of good examples we can draw upon, either from people who have been great statesmen and stateswomen, who have contributed to democratic life, the dignity of persons, wholesome communities, progressive societies, trade unionism, and a host of other things, or religiously inspired people who have been able to look beyond the confines of their own religion, and because of their deep religious conviction were able to leave a mark about the true value of human beings, of use that religion should foster building just societies, liberating human minds to embrace diversity, allowing people, giving gender justice. I mean, that in itself is a very recent phenomena in the 20th century. Centuries, religion has taught that women have no rights and women's place is in the. So I think, I don't want to labor this point. I think the basic thing is that we have so much to draw upon. And the more we discuss, the more such examples are brought to the fore, whether from our own country or further we are taking it from outside. Today in social media, I find many people sending quotes to each other of Nelson Mandela, of Martin Luther King, or of many others, and people are even having it as daily quotes to inspire persons. And I think these are the things that can help us move forward besides our own religious, spiritual life and quoting our own holy scriptures. I think there's enough there. There's nothing to be pessimistic about. The constitution that we have is a beautiful one. It encapsulates the shared destiny of us as a diverse society. But the difficulties, the challenges of the day is there, and we have to hold those who exert power accountable. And the only mechanism we have that is through our elections and our democratic participation. So it is hope that more and more of this discussion will continue, help to form the minds of Malaysian people who are hopeful that the old can continue to dream dreams and the young to envision a new bright future for the coming generation.
Thank you. Thank you. Wonderful. Now the Mentimeter you can go to on your phone and put your 3 words. You just have to type in the code numbers that are there. So can we pass it on to who's ready? Arun, are you ready? I see you ready. Yes.
I think if we want to take something back from this discussion, of course we have spoken about scores of stuff. Okay, if you want to take one thing back, this 30 odd numbers of participants here, and later when we release this this record to public, we will have a few more thousands will be watching this. The one thing we want to take it back out of this discussion is take ownership of this country. We the people, the Rakyat, is the master crafter of the nation. We cannot outsource our responsibility to others. Not to the government, not to the politicians alone. We must participate continuously to make this country a representation of what we want the country to be. In the process of doing so, the Rukun Negara, the Constitution, keluhuran perlembagaan, kesopanan kesusilaan, all this will help us. But the underlining thought is take ownership. Do not wait somebody else to sue the government to uphold our constitution. Do not hold somebody else will call the cop to get the robbers caught. Do not wait for somebody else to call upon MACC when you see a corrupt practice in front of your eyes. Do not justify a bad behavior just because by justifying a bad behavior, you're not only demeaning your own value system, but actually you're demeaning the entire generational value system. So what I'm arriving at, one thing, take ownership. We can make this this country even better than what it is now. We have came this far, okay? 63 years of independence. It is relatively very young, okay? And like what Reverend have said, this is WIP, work in progress. But work in progress by who? Not outsourced per individuals. It's each and every individual under the federation, under the Jalur Gemilang, under the mother Malaysia. So I invite each and all of you, okay, you might not be the panelists here, okay, to share the thoughts. Participate in each and everything in making this country better. Take ownership. It's your country, you're the master. If something goes wrong, that is not the government's fault. It's our fault because we let it happen. Thank you.
Thank you. What a rallying call. Thank you, Arun. So can I pass it on now to Prof Ong?
Okay, thank you, Pat. Just after the Second World War, the United Nations came out with a charter. And in one of the sentences in the preamble, it says, if wars begin in the minds of men, I wonder why they didn't include women, talk about gender. If wars begin in then it should be in the minds of men that the ramparts of the structures be built or established. And so someone said, I think it's Reverend, said about the mind. Yes, the transformation of the mind, the human mind. Why is it that we are feeding the corrupt? Because we have this craving to protect our own interests. So if we can reflect back on our own defilements, for example, the roots of acts or speech, hatred and delusion, then that will be a guide to say, So that's what I mean by insight. That's the question to me, saying that we have been looking inwards, but then we still, the Pakatan Harapan managed to go through. Okay, so it is a work in progress, doesn't matter. We try, we achieve something, we move forward, little step by step. It is through direct experience that we learn how to pick ourselves up, that we learn how to do things. When we leave this, we die, when we leave this world at the moment of death, I've lived a life full of regret? Or are we going to say, I'm leaving this world as a better person? So I see this Mentimeter so hopeful. So I would like to say that, instead of planning for war, we spend so much on nuclear weapons, the arms race, armaments race, but we should plan for peace. And peace begins in the minds of men and boy child and girl child. So we should plan for peace and not war. Build more schools, build more hospitals, public facilities, utilities. We have a minister for utilities in Sarawak, but the utilities in Sarawak are much to be desired for. So instead of nuclear weapons or fighter jets, we build things for the community and for the public good. And then the late Reverend Chief Damananda, he used the phrase, we promote the fragrance of goodness through goodwill. Arun spoke about it's unconditional love. We give without expecting anything in return. We help people. Why? Generosity, so that we give more of ourselves. We become less selfish. So promoting the goodness means we do good acts, good deed, good speech. Not every time. Why some of us are losing hope? Because every time our politicians open their mouth, toxic words came out. Toxicity, I also cannot pronounce that word. Yeah? So this fragrance of goodness instead of the stench of badness. Promote goodwill instead of ill will. It can be done. It's a work in progress. So why worry? Why worry? It's a work in progress. Is a work in progress. It should be like this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prof. This is really hopeful, and also looking at the Mentimeter, there are lovely words there: hopeful, challenging, reflective, hope, nationhood. If this 30-something people in the room are maybe what? Is it a 0.1% from 30 million? Some mathematicians tell me. But, if it's a reflection of where we can go, it's a wonderful place we can go. Because, the last 6 months, if nothing has taught me that we really cannot expect where we will be going in future. But the future lies in our hands and in the hands of our children, our younger people, and they have broke out of the mold that we were in. They have unlearned things that we have learned before, and hopefully they will carry us to a different vision of Malaysia, a richer one, a generous one, a more caring one, and we can support them because we have to learn, we have a lot to share. We are like the paddy that is ready for harvest. We need to be sharing that with them. So can I pass it now on to Prof Tajuddin to bring us to a close, Prof? Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I think we have to seriously, again, philosophically relook at the construct of our education. Because I think our education, its ultimate end is destructive. Why? Because we predicate our education on the construct that if you study well, you'll get 8 A's and then go to university and get an architecture or an engineering degree, make a lot of money, and then become somebody. So the idea there is to fulfill the idea of having a lot of knowledge and therefore becoming a somebody. But the real task of what we call supposedly to be education is at the end of the day, after all the knowledge, then we can call ourselves ignorant. At the end of the day, when we have much of the knowledge that we can learn throughout our life, and the highest achievement is when you can call yourself ignorant. And the greatest status of the day is not when you become a rich person, a Tan Sri or a Datuk Sri or a Tun, or someone who has been given some sort of status of identity, is to be the non-person or the non-identity. To these two things, to declare yourself to be ignorant, meaning that you still need others in order to fulfill some aspects of life. You need to give dignity to others and give priority of identity or status to others rather than yourself, because you are a nobody. So I have found that spirituality sometimes have a contradictory or a very strange message. Those who know do not speak. Those who speak do not know. You know?
Yeah.
The wise stay confused. These are all from Lao Tzu. And
Yeah.
when I contemplate it, it is our arrogance from our education system that makes us think that we know everything. And therefore, we do not wish to know any other thing aside from what the boxes that we have created for ourselves. And that therefore creates our self-identity, which we then say that we are already perfect with this identity. And that is where the whole education construct becomes lost. In the old religious construct, it is supposed to teach about humility and the non-identity. But because of our zeal to prosper in industry, in wealth, there's nothing wrong with that. But then we forget that the human being needs to know and step out of his or her own identity construct in order for him or her to discover the real and true meaning of life. That is the dignity of all human beings on this earth as reflective of our own enlightened experience. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prof. You have put the most difficult thoughts into sentences, articulated them in ways that we can digest and understand and think about and grow with. And I am most grateful. We will be putting some of these things that are down in the chat. We'll need to tidy up spelling and all that, but we will send this out to people who have attended. And I am, you know, it's like a roller coaster, these 2 hours. We have been talking all over the place and deep thoughts. I am most grateful. I think the group is grateful. We have comments, but no questions. But I would like to make some announcements at this point, because some of it we discussed before the session. Some of it I think has just grown from this discussion that we've been having. Maybe next time we have a bit longer so that people can talk. Yeah. Maybe we make it 3 hours so that the last half hour we can have open conversation. And because I think the group here, you are the first group in this dialogue, I want to tell you that I want to do a series of dialogue. And I have a supporter in Mr. Arun. So at least 2 of us will do it. My 2 other guests, they were not asked, because the 3 other guests, they were not asked because we had this conversation earlier before they came on board. But I'm thinking that every quarter, this group or a group similar to this can come together like this over an afternoon, and we talk about what life in Malaysia is becoming. And we share our concerns, and we share what is happening that's good, and we share what the youth are doing, and we share what we can see happening in the future. Yeah, and that will be our gift to Malaysia. So you are on my mailing list, so you will be the what you call it, the inaugural group. And we will let you know when the next sessions will be, but definitely quarterly at least one. Can I have a hands up if you agree? Fingers up if you agree. Great. Now I'm going to move the Mentimeter bigger so that you can see. This is responses. I'm not sure how many have responded, but this now was 30%. I think now it's more than 30%. So
19 have responded.
okay, very good. This one also we will save it and we will send it to you. It will go on Facebook. The talk today, we are recording it. So what I will do is I will do my best to clean out whatever glitches we had. We will video it and I think I might just put it on YouTube. Do you agree? I need your agreement because your faces all going on YouTube. But I don't think we are in trouble because we are talking about the good of Malaysia. So someone was a bit worried. After people see, I say, no lah, as long as you are talking about the good of Malaysia, no one can say anything about you. We have to grow out of this fear mentality. Okay, we are citizens concerned about Malaysia. So thank you all for a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for listening, for sharing, for all that you've written on the Jamboard. It will come out. And my biggest thanks to our speakers for today, Mr. Arun Dorasamy, Pastor Reverend Hermen Shastri, Prof Ong Puay Liu, and last but not least, Prof Tajuddin bin Muhammad Rasdi, my hero. Yeah, and and all of you and Mr. Wan for taking on co-host at the last minute, and my tech team, Pat Nambia, Harry Chu, and Eddie Lee, who have been working the questions like busy little bunnies at the back trying to sort things out. I couldn't have done it without them. So thank you very much. If you want to stay on and have a chat, fine. But those of you who need to leave, selamat jalan, selamat.
Bye.
Bye-bye.